You know, the Cold War, it sounds so complicated, right? Decades of tension, global politics, the whole thing. But what if I told you we could break it all down using an analogy for high school? Seriously, we found this amazing set of class notes that does just that, so let's dive in.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. What was the Cold War, anyway? We hear that phrase all the time, but a Cold War? It's a pretty strange name when you think about it.
So here's the official scoop. It was this super long, super tense standoff between the two big winners of World War II, the United States and the Soviet Union. And the key word here really is tension. There was no direct all-out war between them. That's why we call it cold. But believe me, the conflict was playing out in just about every other way you can possibly imagine. And this is where our explainer gets really fun, thanks to a teacher named Mr. Tsai. Just picture the entire globe as one giant high school. The US and the Soviet Union, they're the two top students, both trying to be valedictorian, class president, and prom king all at once. Each one was convinced their way of running the school, capitalism versus communism, was the right way. So everything became a competition to prove who was the strongest, the smartest, and of course, the most popular kid on campus, or, well, on Earth.
Now, to really get this rivalry, we've got to set the scene for one of our main characters, America. Right after World War II, the U.S. was heading into this time of incredible growth. Think of it as the victory party after the big game. So picture this. Millions of soldiers are coming home. They're ready to get jobs, buy houses, start families. All of a sudden, there's this huge demand for, well, everything. Cars, washing machines, you name it. People finally had money to spend, and boy, were they spending it. And all this led to the famous baby boom, a massive spike in the birth rate. And what all that adds up to is this powerful feeling of normalcy. You know that vibe after the home team wins the championship? That's what it felt like. Just this huge wave of optimism, like things were finally getting back to the way they should be. So everything was perfect, right? A booming economy, happy families living in new suburbs. What could possibly go wrong? Well, not so fast, because while one side of the school was celebrating, that rivalry with the other top student was just heating up. And this wasn't just some friendly competition. This was a battle for the very soul of the school. It was about whose ideas were better, whose way of life was superior, and ultimately who was going to have the most influence over all the other students. This is really the heart of it all. The US and the USSR were just locked in this constant game of one-upsmanship. Who can build more powerful weapons? Who can get into space first? Who can get more friends or allies to sit at their table in the global cafeteria? Every single win was a point scored against the other guy. But here is where the high school analogy starts to get a little dark. Because simmering just underneath all that post-war optimism was a totally new kind of fear. This competition, it wasn't just for bragging rights. It felt existential.
Yeah, this wasn't your everyday fear. This was a brand new type of anxiety, one that was being fueled by these mind-blowing leaps in technology in a world that suddenly felt a whole lot more dangerous.
So what were people so afraid of? Well, for one, the total unknown. Things like the Roswell incident in '47, or all those reports of weird lights in the sky pilots called Foo Fighters. But then there was the fear of the very known. Like the US starting nuclear testing, which proved for the first time ever that humanity could literally wipe itself off the map. It was this bizarre mix of amazing scientific progress and absolute terror. And that's the great contradiction of this whole period, isn't it? On one hand, you've got unbelievable progress, jet engines, atomic energy, the very beginning of the space race. But all of that was happening right alongside this deep, creeping paranoia about, well, everything. Your rival superpower, your neighbor, even strange things in the sky.
So it kind of leaves us with this one big question. When you're living through an age of nuclear bombs and Foo Fighters, of world-changing science and a shadowy global rivalry, how in the world do you tell the difference between real progress and pure paranoia? That was the question people had to live with every single day.